Chicago, Chicago, that toddling town.
Yo, we're back with another episode of Walkie Talkie.
What
Today,
up?
I got the homie Amado with me. We're here in Chicago. Amado, say what's up.
What's up, everyone? My name is Amado De Leon. I am a street photographer, I guess, here in Chicago, Illinois. There we go.
Yeah, where you from originally?
I was born in the Philippines, moved to LA, West Coast for a little bit, and then my pops is in New York and Brooklyn, so it's like home away from home. But this is home. This is where I've been most of my life.
Can you just quickly tell us what got you into street photography?
I went on a trip with my ex-wife, and she, for an engagement present at the time, she gave me a camera, and went to like Prague, Florence, Rome, and I got back and I was just editing these photos, and it just brought me back to these moments and this time when we were there, and after that I just got hooked. Even with just editing and just seeing everything that I did and shot, it just kind of brought me back to those areas, and I think from there I got back here and just started shooting, and just try to recreate those moments that from the very first time I picked up a camera and started taking photos, just to kind of document the life around me and how I am part of that.
And then, so gear talk, what are we shooting with today?
This is the Leica M9 with a vintage Vivitar Auto 252 flash. I love this camera. This thing's fucking great.
And what about the lens?
This is a Summicron 35 f2 Summicron.
You prefer the 35 over a 50 or 28?
I shot with a 50 for a while, but I think it got to the point where I just needed something wider. In a 35, one of my photography buddy was selling his because he had a baby, needed some cash. And he's like, I'm gonna sell this 35, do you want it? I was like, if the price is right, yes. And I got it, and this is what's been on this camera ever since. And here I think it's perfect because it's wide enough. I have room to move, so I can always get closer. I can always back up. Maybe New York, I would love to try a 28, just because there's just no leeway, And I think 28 is just wider, and I'll be able to capture it a little bit more. But here, 35 is perfect for me.
So where are we shooting today? What's our route?
Well, we're just gonna walk around the bean really quick, check it out, see the happy people, because that's always fun. And we'll take down Michigan, probably hit up Navy Pier, go down Michigan and come back, hit the Mag Mile again, and then take you home to your hotel.
Oh. Okay, let's get walking.
Let's go. I mean, look, the bean is touristy. This whole area is touristy. But it is always nice to just kind of see people having a good time. Also, people are at ease here. They're with their family. They're distracted by the bean. Ooh, Palo Santo, you smell that? That's the old hippie in me.
You ever photograph in other neighborhoods?
No, unfortunately I don't. I don't have a car, so I know that's no excuse. I like the density of downtown Chicago. For me, again, the more people, the more chances there is of like a photo opportunity, of something happening.
Would you say you spend most of your time on the Mag Mile these days?
Honestly, I probably do. A lot of that is just because my work is so close to it, and I actually take the bus on Mag Mile to go home. So a lot of times I will just, when I get off work, I'll just shoot Mag Mile, come up down here, towards the loop.
Just because they can't breathe.
There's a line.
And just stick to this area. I know it really well.
It's like 3 weekends in a row, man.
I'll do the beach. In the spring or so, in the summertime, that's kind of like a different neighborhood. Kind of.
Talk about your bag mile zine.
So when during the shutdown with the COVID, apart from there's nothing to do. And apart from just shooting, I realized like, okay, well I have all these photos, might as well look through them and just, let's make a scene. Let's do a scene. I have all these photos. Let's do something with them. We always talk about trying to get them in people's hands or on people's coffee table books. I started, kind of editing down the pool of photos. And I was looking for a title, and I just didn't know. Like, okay, well, I figured eventually, once I get a pool of things together and start editing them down, something will come up. And honestly, I realized I had a lot of photos on the Magnificent Mile. And that's basically how that came about. I was like, okay, well, let me just consolidate all these photos from Mag Mile, and let's see if I can actually make something that's, a zine, say, however many pages. It turned out to be 64. Had Chris help me, just kind of edited things down, sequence it out, put it in a photo book, flip through it, just to make sure, it didn't feel choppy. If it did, just reshuffle the deck. And that's how that came about. And I realized I could also continue to do that project for a really long time. Mag Mile's not going anywhere. And that's why I'm always out here, just to keep that going.
What years did that span?
I would say definitely between 2017 and 2019, so just before the shutdown. But I also realized I was shooting the beach a lot in the lakefront. So that was another side project in tandem to like putting Mag Mile together. It's Third Coast, and it's just photos I've shot along like Oak Street Beach, the Cement Beach, the Cement Beach, as well as north to like say Montrose. And just walking on the beach, taking photos. The other one I'm working on is, that I'm also trying to get approved for, is a New York Minute. Pre-COVID, I used to go to New York at least once or twice a year to visit my pops, visit some friends, and just take photos. And so I realized, like, I have all these photos from New York. With your channel, it's always interesting to me when you go around to all these different places. And it's just nice to be able to see kind of like that different perspective, different city, So for me, I thought it'd be really cool to just be able to show my kind of perspective of like New York City, like how I shoot here, shoot there in that way too. So when I went there this year in June, the goal was to try to beef up all those photos that I did have pre-COVID and see if I can, put something together that will come to that. And that's a New York Minute. And then one of the things that's a trigger for me is hands. So I have this idea of a zine called All Hands on Deck. And it just deals with just photos that deals with hands. Yeah, all hands on deck. That's the next thing I'm trying to figure out, kind of put together. And that'll be a lot of fun for me to put together because it's kind of personal to me in a way. I love that hair just flowing, man. It's great. It's great. Let's walk.
So how would you describe the style of photographs that you like to take?
I don't know. I guess for me, it's just kind of instinctual. If I'm just walking, something just happens and I'm just kind of compelled to take this photo, I also like to just try to keep it loose and fun. But at the same time, there has to be an anchor to why I'm taking this photo, It just helps me kind of just relate to it as quickly as possible. Just be able to show kind of like the reality of what I'm seeing around me clearly, and also be able to, share that and show that in that manner.
And sorry to interrupt, but this video is brought to you by this hoodie that I'm selling. A couple years ago, I was walking around the city and I stumbled upon a movie set and there was a notice of filming. And at the top, it said, "Attention, you are being photographed." And I thought to myself, that is an interesting statement to put on merch for street photographers. And here it is on a hoodie designed for street photographers. but really anybody who's a photographer that takes photos of people. So this hoodie will be on sale until November 11th, 2024. Will it be on sale after that? I don't know, but get it while you can. Link is in the description of this video. We just hit 100,000 subscribers, so support the channel, support your boy, and cop the hoodie. In reviewing your photos over the past couple of years, do you feel like the why you take a photo, there's common themes among that?
Yeah, so it's interesting actually. When Instagram sucks, but it's also really cool. In the sense that, when I first got on there, say probably 2014, 2015, I remember talking to an old photography buddy that actually got me into photography. And as cliche as it is, like the cameras. But I remember asking him like, hey, I just got this camera. I want to start getting on Instagram. I don't know what to post, But he did say, he's like, hey man, just start posting. Something will come up. You'll see some kind of pattern or something that, is concrete and cohesive, And it took a minute because I was still coming out of almost a 4-year hiatus of shooting and just kind of had to refine myself and reinvent that. But eventually it did, and I kind of found in it, I guess, a voice, at least what I feel was comfortable for me.
Can we do it tomorrow morning? Can we get a drink there?
I would hope that, throughout this adventure, that will continue to grow and also just kind of change too.
So before, it was...
So I probably started, honestly, shooting easy stuff, so to speak. For me, urban architecture, that kind of urban landscape, And then with that, I think I started kind of incorporating people, either kind of walking into the frame, or just standing in good light, doing something. And it got to the point where I felt like I needed to get closer. And, I think seeing the works of say Bruce Gilden, who, obviously uses flash and was a big kind of influence in that sense, apart from Ouija, him being able to go up to somebody and just kind of flash them with their camera and a flash, it made me realize that that's something I can do too, Sorry, that doll in the pocket. And then after that, it just became, kind of not just about street portraits, because I had to do that too, just to kind of get an idea of how am I going to get close to people? And I feel like street portraiture is a good way to do that because you start to get comfortable being around and being close to people on the street. And from there, it just started to look for scenes, moments, as I mentioned, an anchor to why I'm taking this photo. I also try not to shy away from, taking photos of children, old people, there's just a big range that I like to do. I know some people have rules. I guess if I had one hard rule is I don't take photos of homeless people. Unless obviously there's something extraordinary happening, but everyone's fair game, I think.
So the way you shoot and the style you shoot typically invites more confrontation than being a fly on the wall?
Absolutely. Also, you have the flash element to it, and it's just it will create that kind of confrontation. But honestly, I've found 99% of the time, especially lately, people be thanking me. It's like, oh, thank you. How much is the photo? But there are times when people will not like it, and you just have to de-escalate. You don't want to add on to their anger, because if you do, it's just going to continue to snowball. And I think if you just kind of de-escalate and just, maybe not necessarily try to explain what you're doing, but also do that. I think if you start to get angry, people are just going to get angrier and angrier with you. That's just how life is, You have to have a relationship on the street with the people that you're photographing, even if it's, strangers. You're still gonna have to be able to react to them in a way that calms them down. Because if you don't, you're in a world of just hurt. And that could dissuade you or make you not want to come out here and take photos.
What are some tactics of de-escalation that you use?
One of the first things I'll do is I'll ask them if they're from Chicago. I think that really just helps because that gives me an idea of, are they from the United States of A? And, if I find out they are American or they're from the US or from Chicago, I just let them know. I'm like, look, you're in a public space. I am free to do this as long as I'm in a public space. There are people that will, there's a guy out there just spewing Jesus, and people can have racist rants out here, and it's totally fine. They can do that. I should be able to take photos out on the street because it's free, it's public space. I remember this one time I was out here and I had taken a photo of this girl and her mom and dad, and I think that sorry, your hair is great. Just trying to get some wind blown here. And I remember I took a photo of her and her dad just flipped out on me. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, who do you think you are? Like, you can't do that. That's illegal. Like, you can only take photos of people that are that are like celebrities or politicians or something like that. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, I'm a lawyer. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm like, thinking in my head, I'm like, maybe you should go back to law school because I have every right to be out here doing what I do. As long as I'm not touching you, as long as I'm not assaulting you, this is something I can do. And, he's like, I'm gonna call the cops on you, this and that. And I was like, go ahead, there's one right there. I'll stand right here, I'll stand my ground. But then his wife got into it. She's like, get a day job, fucking loser. And the cop came up to me. He's like, what are you doing out here? And I kind of just told him, like, hey, I'm out here doing street photography. I'm not doing anything. I'm not assaulting anyone. Just out here trying to have fun and document what I see around me. And it wasn't until later on that I realized he probably wasn't from here. He was probably a tourist, maybe from Spain, and that is why I started asking people are from, the Chicago or the US, because obviously being in a big city, you're gonna have tourists everywhere. And so it's just good to kind of know that from the get-go, because then you can kind of navigate how to react to people when they confront you, Let's walk. I think those are just kind of things you have to think about when you're out here photographing. With flash, again, it's a little bit more, it can be a little bit more, I guess confrontational, and people will see it that way. But at the same time, on the flip side of that, I love flash, man. There's something about, you look like you're just having a party. Being out here to me is like being in a big party. And I think flash, maybe it's the nostalgia. Photos at parties where everything's at flash, everyone's just having a good time, they're loose. And you just kind of freeze everything. And I do enjoy that about flash. But I do think people nowadays, I think they think I'm doing it for money. It's like, oh, like how much do I owe you? Or like, can I pay you for that? And I'm like, oh, they'll thank me and it's great, Like I was like, wow, thank you. Thank you, If you're gonna do street photography, if you're gonna be out here doing the work, if you're gonna be, in front of people's faces or get in their way to take a photo, at some point you're gonna get questioned. There's just no doubt about it. I think the important thing to learn and understand is that the more that happens to you, the more you'll get to kind of just understand how to navigate through that interaction. And I think that's important. Hopefully people will take that advice and not be afraid. Because I think a lot of people, it holds them back. But you're gonna have to get used to confrontation at some point, because it will happen. And the more of it that you've kind of de-escalated, you start to learn how to approach that. And I think that's really important. So we're on Mag Mile right now. It's getting a little busier, which is good. But yeah, just Michigan Avenue. I think it starts from Oak Street all the way up to Wacker, just past the river. And it's kind of our equivalent to, I guess, Fifth Avenue. But it's 1 mile. That's it. That's why it's called the Magnificent Mile. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she just had something in her eye and she was crying. You know, I have to have these tactics sometimes. I'm shorter, and I was like, I have to look between people's shoulders. When I start jumping to see what's on the other side, that's when there's a problem. But I'll do it. I don't care.
Earlier, you briefly mentioned the money of it. Like, you're not making money off of this. This isn't your day job.
I do have a day job. I work 11 to 5. Tuesday through Saturday. So for me, this is purely for fun. For my soul. It's a meditation for me, even though it is chaotic. I do find that I can kind of be in the moment and present when I do this, and I think that's really important in life, and I think this can teach you to do that. Just to kind of be present and in the moment, and obviously my day job does help me pay the bills. So my day job puts money in my pocket. This is like food for the soul. I obviously, I'm looking into, publishing more like DIY zines. And that's, but for me, getting money from that is basically just to fund my next project. I don't have a ton of followers. I'm not famous by any means. So.
You gotta go just down.
So for me, I know I'm not gonna, sell a bunch of zines or a bunch of books to fund my lifestyle. But if it can fund my next project, that's important for me. And just in continuing to do that. And if I get more people that see my work and like it, great.
You feel like you have a good balance between your finding time for photography, working your day job, and then everything else in life going on?
I do. I mean, I think I would like to shoot more. But like I said, I work 11 to 5 every day. And on the way to the bus stop, cameras in my hands ready to go. Just like this. Even on the bus, if I see a photo op, my hand's ready. I'm ready to go. As well as from, the 3 blocks that I walk from the bus stop to work, my camera is always ready. And then I get off work, I will shoot for at least an hour or two, if not more, depending on the weather, Obviously, spring and summer really helped because the sun was out. The sun didn't set till like 8:30. Now it's starting to set at 6:30. I have the flash, so, that really helps with that. But I always know, if I come out after work for a couple hours and I say I get nothing, or I don't even see anything, I try not to be too hard on myself because I know I'll be back out here tomorrow. But there are days where I'm out here all day and I feel like nothing. And then there's days where I'm just walking from the bus to work. And for example, I remember this one time I was crossing the street. I just got off the bus and I see this lady she's got it looked like she had a baby. And she was holding. I was like, okay, baby, that's cute, whatever. But as I got closer, I realized it's not a baby at all, wrapped up in this towel or blanket or whatever it was. And as I got even closer, I realized that it was a baby freaking monkey, just cradling this baby monkey. And I've never seen a baby monkey before, maybe at the zoo, but on the street being carried, I had never seen that. If I didn't have my camera ready, would have totally missed that. I would have been fumbling, So, I think it's important, to have that, to just kind of always be ready, guys look great. Missed that. Sorry, Ben. It's like just like you're kicking the can, but it's the Pringles. That's what happens when you're a kid bored at a wedding party.
What's your process of like working a scene?
You know, if my flash recycles fast, I'll try to take, you know, one or two. Yeah. But most of the time, I find that the first shot is usually what I take, or the second. But sometimes my flash won't fire on the second, especially if, you know, if my battery's running low. So it's just kind of a chance. And most of the time, though, it's that first one. And again, with flash, you know, I can't shotgun it. What do you call that? Rapid fire. This is more like a shotgun. Let's see if she got some cold shoes over there. Let's see. Sometimes you get easy shots handed to you. Sometimes you just gotta take it. Maybe it'll work out.
What's your flash settings usually? Like, what do you have it set at now? When you're just running and gunning.
So the flash is on manual just because it's the full blast. And I just have to change my aperture. You know, okay, really quickly, the M9 only goes, you know, 1/80th of a second. So it's not even 250, which I think is mostly common for street photographers to try to freeze the frame. So yeah, so I just keep it at 1/80th, and then kind of, you know, I can always go down if I need to, depending on the light. But then I'll just change, you know, from either f8 down to like 5.6, and I'll just keep it at that. In this shade, where it's a little bit darker, I may go down to 5.6 and take it down to like 1/25th or 90th. But I also have to remember, if I'm too close, I'll just blow out that whole subject. You know, so I have to remember, if I'm gonna be close, I have to bring, with flash, I have to bring it through, you know, f11, because if not, it just blows out. So I have to constantly kind of remember that, you know, and I guess with time and continuing to do this, that becomes kind of second nature. Like I usually have like my middle finger on the aperture, so I know I can just kind of move it, depending on what I need to do. But today, it's kind of flat out here, cloudy, so I know I probably don't need to go to f11 unless I'm like really close. I think the more and more you take photos out here, I think you start to realize that there are obviously motifs that you know will kind of shoot. But at some point, I think for me, it got to the point where like, okay, well, I can only take so many photos of kids on top of, you know, dads and shoulders. You know, what else is happening there? You know, that can kind of level that up to something else. And so, you know, when that happens, I'll take it. But or I think I'll take it. But apart from that, I try not to until I see something else happening.
Yeah, I guess so when it comes to like a photograph, there, especially street photograph, there are kind of three important elements: the moment, the composition, and the light.
Yes.
How do you go about in your mind ranking those three when taking photos, reviewing photos?
So you're saying there's the moment?
Yep.
And then what was the second one?
Composition.
Composition. Okay, like I would put the moment on top of that. And then I think compositionally, I would like to think my subconscious is doing that for me. Yeah, and then as far as light is concerned, I've got light. I've got flash. I think there was somebody that said too, like, you know, there's three types of photos. Something along the lines of, you know, there's a photo that's like, you know, it's composed really well, the light's really nice, and generally it looks very pleasing. But there's really nothing going on in the photo that just kind of, that might anchor it or that gives that kind of oomph. And then there's the other photo, the second photo, where it might not be composed very well. You know, maybe light's not that great. You know, maybe it's, you know, it's flash photography, or it's, you know, it's kind of, but there's something in there that just grabs you. And the third photo, just kind of marrying that together. I mean, I think that's what we all try to do at some point, is try to marry that form and content together. I'll go back to motifs. You know, there's obviously certain things that I'll just photograph. And I think part of it for me is just repetition, you know? So they, you know, and it may not be, you know, good. Most of the time it's not. I've taken that photo before. It's probably gonna look very similar to the last one I took a week or two ago. What I want to do and accomplish is when that time comes, when that's something that's elevated is happening, I've just gotten so used to taking that fucking photo and that repetition of doing it that I'm just there and I'm ready, you know? And I'm not shying away. You know, I think people kind of shy away from things. I mean, yeah, you know, I'll go up to somebody, maybe I'll be like, okay, no, it's just not gonna work. But I don't want to have to shy away from those things, because again, I've just gotten so used to doing it that it's just second nature. But I think that's, you know, that's what street photography is. You know, like, you can't shy away from it. You just have to kind of go head on, man, you know?
So you talked about street photographers trying to achieve that connection of the content and form in a photograph.
Yes.
What photographs of yours do you think show an example of that connection?
I don't know. Honestly, I mean, in my head, I obviously have photos that I personally like. Maybe if I look through some things, you know, I can come with that. I guess what's more important to me is just always trying to strive for that. You know, I may not get it every time, all the time. I may not even have it, you know? I'm just trying to strive for that, you know, every time. Sometimes, you know, I love taking photos of just details.
All right, what about photographers that you look up to that are good at doing that?
The buddy of mine that introduced me to kind of photography and, you know, cameras and things like that, he was, you know, very into like HCB, you know. I guess, you know, you could call him like the father or grandfather of like the decisive moment or street. I mean, I was just in awe. I'm just like, wow, like contextually, content, you know, framing. I mean, it was great. It was beautiful. It's like a song and dance. Ouija, I think, is just really great. I have a book of his, and, you know, just flipping through it, there's just certain photos there where you're just like, how the fuck? Like, what? And obviously, okay, you know, he's a photojournalist, and, you know, he got to the crime scenes a lot faster than most cops did. So he's able to do these things. But you still have to have some kind of idea of how you're gonna frame something and what it is you're trying to capture. I think he did a really good job with that too. I just saw, I think a couple months back, to a half a year back, we saw like Alex Webb. I thought his stuff was really interesting, man. Like, you know, just having those layers. You know, it's another thing that I'm trying to accomplish too, is just having layers. A lot harder than it seems. Oh, he didn't do it. Damn it. Sorry. So I thought he was just gonna fly it up in the air like that. All right, let's go. I got kind of scolded there.
Yeah, he doesn't understand it.
You look great. You're welcome. Thank you. Fucking hell. I don't know what happened to that flash there. It just turned off.
Is that unit turned off by itself? You keep it on?
It just turned off, and the camera turned off too. That's why I almost had it there, and I just rushed, and I was like, oh, it's not working. What is happening? Trying to chase that photo, man. It just wasn't happening with this thing turning off on me. My name is Amado De Leon. I'm a Chicago street photographer. I like to dance, as you can tell.
Talk to me about the community, the street photography community of Chicago. What's it like? How big is it? Who's kind of in it, and how's it changed over the years?
When I started shooting in the 2000s, like mid 2000s, there probably wasn't a lot. I mean, I remember like me and maybe two other guys. This guy Satoki Nagata and then Spencer. We'd walk around, take photos. But I just remember just us three. Fast forward to now, I see a lot more people out here taking photos. I may not know all of them, but when I do see them, if I see them enough, I'll acknowledge them, because obviously I see them doing the work. And then, the ones that come to critique with us, or do critique with us, to me, like that's my community, What's going on? I love it. You're just stuffing that. It's great.
There. Does that feel better? Yes. Okay, let's try the other one.
Amazing.
Okay, now go.
Have a good day. That looks comfy now. Yeah, the people that come to critique, they're kind of like my community as far as like personal. It's nice for them. I think we kind of just inspire each other to keep coming out here and just, put in the work and have something to show or just put on a table, and you got, obviously CP. I've been shooting with him for years. Like years, we come out here. We're always like looking out for each other. If anything is going on, we always try to just be there. When we kind of started Chai SPC, it was you, me, Chris, and Deucing, right? And obviously you left to go to New York, and we continued to do critiques and things like that. And then eventually, when I started. When I did like Mag Mile, the kids that I did see out here on a pretty normal basis, I would just obviously try to let them know like, hey, I have this coming out, but also started telling them about critique because I wanted more people to come in and just give us just more. Not that me and Chris doing it on our own wasn't more. It's just nice to have a collective of people kind of coming together and just discussing like photography and what each individual is doing. And I think that's important. It just gives you just different perspectives, different ideas, different thoughts. And so, yeah, you got Chris, you got like Juan Carlos, JCA. I said, I met him because I overheard him say, I was watching this paulie.b video, So quickly I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then Nina, I was just walking on the street. She was sitting in the corner. I turned around and she's just smiling at me. And I said, hi. She's like, are you doing street photography? I was like, yeah. And then Michael Gerstein, I met him obviously just walking around the city, and I gave him a copy of Mag Mile. I was like, hey, come to critique. I think it'll be really good for everyone. He brought Michael Jarecki, who's a professor at Columbia. Like awesome. Like we got a professor there, and unbeknownst to us, he had been like making zines this whole time. So that was really awesome to see that kind of do a trade with him. Obviously, Scott Firestone's been around. You remember, we've been shooting with him for a while too. It's nice to have this kind of different perspectives kind of coming into one room and just sharing work and trying to get ideas and, just helping each other out. We have critique once a month, and after critique for the rest of that month, I'm out here just trying to take photos, just trying to keep up with that, and that helps me get out here. It motivates me. And I think that's really important for everyone, is just to have some kind of motivation to get out here and to put in the work. Oh, I thought bubbles were gonna come out.
Another place that I know you like to shoot that's not downtown is in bars.
Where?
In bars.
Oh yeah, I do like to shoot in bars. That's just a fun moment for me. You know, I think it can be a little dicey though. You know, if people are just drunk, it can get bad. It can get dicey. Get dicey. I'm usually around people that I know have my back. Or, you know, I usually try to shoot, you know, like the people that I know around me first. And then people in the bar see that, obviously, and they're like, oh, okay, you just take photos. And then from there, I'll kind of like venture out into like the crowd or trying to photograph the crowd around me. And if it feels comfortable, I'll just keep doing it, you know? So I think there is some good stuff to be had at bars, nightclubs. You know, people are just dancing, just having a good time. I just like seeing people have a good time.
So we had talked about contemporary Chicago photographers that are kind of part of your community right now. What about historical? Historical bodies of work of photographers that have shot in Chicago? Who are some names that come to mind?
Well, Paul D'Amato right now has an exhibition at the Cultural Center. I think it's stuff that he did in Midway, kind of the surrounding neighborhoods. He also did like the stuff in Pilsen when he was living there, I believe. The underdogs, man, Gary Stokel. You know, I think he went into Columbia College. I think he spoke to Bob Thal, and was like, I've been doing photography for 40 years. I feel like I should probably start showing it. And I think, yeah, Bob was just kind of like, I have a meeting in a few minutes, but I'll look at these really quickly. And I think as he started looking through them, you know, after like the 15th, 20th photo, he started to realize like there could be something else going on here. He ended up, and then he forgot about his fictitious meeting from the story, how the story goes. And he spent like, I think 2 to 3 hours with him, just kind of like going through these images, talking about it. And then having him come back, and he brought a bunch of other people in to just try to kind of do something as far as editing it down and make something cohesive out of it. You know, I think that was like 2004 maybe. And then what, like 3 years later, Vivian Maier got discovered. And I hate saying it, it kind of eclipsed, you know, I mean, the Gary Stokels, I mean, that's an amazing story. But then, you know, I think like, you know, I think the Vivian Maier thing, it just was just something else, and it just kind of eclipsed that. Those two underdogs, I mean, they did this thing, man, without any community, you know? And no social media, nothing to keep pushing them. But for some reason, man, they just kept doing it, you know? I mean, Vivian Maier was a nanny. Like, she brought these kids out and, you know, was just taking photos with them. It's weird, actually. One of my good friends growing up, his father was babysat by Vivian Maier. Like, it's crazy.
All right, Amado, finish the sentence. I take photos because.
I take photos because I love humanity. I do. I also just like the anticipation of, you know, the things that happens around me. It just makes me feel like I'm here, I'm present. Also, it's one of the best, you know, one of the better, longer lasting relationships I've had, you know? I mean, this is a relationship, I have a relationship with it. It gives, it takes. I think it's good to nurture that, especially if it gives you something back, you know? Every now and again, I'll take a photo. I don't even know where it comes from, but I'll get this like, either while it's happening or after I take it. It's almost kind of like butterflies. It's weird, you know, and I kind of feel it in my legs. And maybe it's more like the fight or flight response of my body, maybe the excitement of it. But man, it's just a lovely feeling. It just makes me like feel like, oh, I'm out here, I'm alive, I'm doing this.
Oh, you guys said you want to walk down the street.
I saw that, I reacted.
just post a video with herself. Okay.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, I missed that. She was pulling on one of the dread, and right when I took it, just let go. Oh well.
All right, that's gonna do it for this episode of Walkie Talkie. Amado, thanks for hanging out with me today, man.
Thank you for coming out to Chicago and gracing us with your presence and your talent, of course. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Peace out. Enjoy the time that you have on this earth and keep taking photos. Just keep doing it.
Let people know where they can show you some love.
So right now, I'm just on Instagram at Photo Archival. One of these days, I'll get a website, or you can actually buy some shit from me, like my zines. One day.
All right, man.
Thanks, man. Peace.
Now when they see us in the streets, all they wanna do is take pics, and I'm like, okay.